The last video ended with sealing swabs. This is a continuation of part 2. I'm going to work through a few more of these expressions and get that slide we prepped to the microscope. And let's see. Pretty happy with those first two. Should I continue? Here's another one. Here's one of these interactive videos. Choose your own adventure. Should Yoshi continue cloning? Press yes or no. I honestly feel like this tub is almost exactly the same. F1.2. These large fruits, really similar. Basically the same thing I just worked with, so I'm not sure. I mean, you could make an argument that potentially different spore selection, so it's it's a different colony. This one I do see some variety though, so I think I'll work from here. There's another thing interesting with this one, just to point out that, let's see so you can see it. This corner down here, it's producing some that looked like, I don't remember what number clone it was, but that looked like more of a normal sort of thing, whatever you would want to call that. But these crazy things look pretty interesting to me. And then also potentially working these smaller fruits out here as they come in a bit more. So I think we'll grab those two and just quickly give them maybe the same treatment that we just did. Although that would mean I'd be skipping that jellyfish thing. I don't know if cloning the jellyfish fruits are going to produce that, or if they would be like, if they would just come in as jellyfish first flesh and then be like the Momo peach fruits. They're a little past their prime, still firm enough that I could probably get tissue out of them easily enough. This one actually looks really similar to the other tub. There's a crazy fruit that looks just like that but bigger. Oh, choices, right? It's always like this with these projects. It's like, what do you grab and what do you skip? There's so many possibilities. This is the one that kind of catches my eye because it's really mangling it, trying to get it out of here. It's really pretty interesting to me. It looks a lot like Nutcracker with the way the cap is really bumpy and stuff. I'm not prepared. It's usually a good idea to think these things through before you start fucking around. Alright, so those are smaller for sure, but first flush thing that came in, grab those and work with that, and then also going to grab these ones, big ones, weird ones from the other tub. Here we go. So we got C3, A, and B. And this is going to have the next three letters. C, D, and E. I have to do a sterilization on some blades here. So bear with me. My sterilizer is actually not... It's sterilizing my blades, but I feel like playing with fire. That was the analogy I was going to use. But what's going on is my fan thing on this looks like it's like seized up, or it kind of like fell off the lid where it was adhered. So it's not being cooled, so I'm like flick it on and I'll do a few blades really fast and turn it back off. Just done this for the last day, so it's not really like a thing I'd recommend you do, but I kind of kind of had some shit I needed to do today. As you can see, the first fruits, you know, like the first ones I showed in the beginning video where I was talking about the different phenos we see here or whatever, the jellyfish things, that's what I'm trying to say, is they kind of went too far. You know, I let them mature a little bit too far, so they're kind of a little mushy, which is fine for a lot of different things, but, you know, personal use and all that kind of stuff, fine. Not really a big deal. We lose a little bit of alkaloids by letting them go a little too far, that kind of thing, but it's nothing like massive in most cases, I guess, unless you're letting them completely rot. But my point is, it's best to work with, if you're working with tissue samples and shit like this, it's best to work with the freshest tissue you can get. Seems like an obvious thing to say, but anyways, I just said it. So I'm gonna grab this nutcracker one really quick first, to just begin, and then I'll swab these other ones quick. I'm not gonna do like 20 swabs. I'm just gonna do a small handful of them, and then get the tissue samples going. So anyways, this little smaller one, I'm going to use my thumbs to pinch and pull apart to do that thing where you expose the flesh inside, and you can see it's kind of oxidizing and a little more funky inside of there than those nice white fruits that I worked with at the beginning of the video on the inside. It's because this is beginning to decay a little bit, oxidize the alkaloids inside as the cell walls rupture and they're exposed to oxygen. But in any case, that should be good. And since we have it sitting right here, this other one is a pretty nice, it's tiny, but you can't really see it. There we go. Pretty nice example of like the jellyfish thing as well. It's got the, like, it's got the enrolled pileus. Some people call it like the butthole, like a butthole cap. So, if you like that, there you go. And who doesn't, right? Alright. I'm carried away. Grab a bit of tissue from here. Trying to avoid the blue stuff. You also want to be careful not to like slice all the way through to the other side of the mushroom, because then you would be potentially grabbing some contamination or something from the outside skin, whatever you want to call that. Trying to get this little bit loose. Want it to come free. Using fresh scalpel blade, like my scalpel blades, as you can tell, are not brand new. So using fresh scalpel blades while doing this sort of cloning stuff is advisable. I just was a bit lazy, I suppose, when I began and didn't think it through. So I'm going to open some swabs. So another riveting section of this video that will be sped up for your sanity. So you can get a peek at this before I mess it all up. Pretty heavily mutated gill structure. A lot less gills than normal. It's interesting, these like mutations that affect the lamellae, or whatever the pronunciation is of fancy word for gills. These things that affect something that, such as the spore color, the spore production, such as the low spore varieties. There's actually more tightly packed gills up here at the top, now that I'm looking closer. There's like a row of tight gills, and then this big booming part of much less. It looks like veins almost. Wonder if there's, I guess I could look, I wonder if there's even spores on that. So I'm going to do this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, some good looking gills down there. I'm going to do a couple more than I intended, because the gills underneath this actually look more formed and less mutated. So maybe there's something to work with there. I might take a peek at that little gill section of gills. See if we can get this to focus. Might look at that section of gills there to see if those mutated gill structures are producing spore or not. That'd be a thing to try and peep. And then, it's pretty cool. Like, focus here. Focus on me. There we go. Thank you. If you look, the gills, the way the cap goes down, the gills are really really small and kind of sort of mutated at the front. But as the cap goes down and around, you actually see some pretty decent looking gills under there. So you can grab maybe 2 more swab sets. And just keep these ones separated also. We'll designate the jellyfish fruit as C, and then that'll be D, that'll be E. Just put those swabs together in the same cup, which would have not kept them separated. Which wouldn't be the end of the world, but if we are trying to delineate these things, it's helpful. You may ask, delineate in what way and why, but the reasoning is that you can go back to a culture. It's basically, you can track the information, so you can make decisions. Like, if you want to go back to a specific culture that something came out of, then you can do that specifically. Like, if I ran this forward and it, wasn't giving me these weird, like, garlic-shaped things, and that was really my thing that I was after, I could come back to, let's see, whatever the hell this was. I need to figure it out anyways. This one is F1.3. Well, the garlic fruits are F1.3. That way you could go back to your F1.3 culture or whatever, and then run it back if you wanted to. I should make note that our culture clones C, the jellyfish guys, were from F1.2, right? Not 1.2. Yes, F1.2, not from F1.3. So you can see how, if you're not tracking this information pretty closely, I mean, you could really lose lose track of this stuff really quick because it gets exponential. You end up with all sorts of different cultures, and then it's like you'll convince yourself that your memory is better than it is. And you're like, I'll remember this later. And like, no, you fucking won't. Especially me. I'm like, I know that I'm gonna just forget those things. So good thing to try and either jot down some notes on like a notepad, or a lot of times I'll write stuff on the Petri dishes themselves to remind me until Peach and I put stuff in the spreadsheet, and then we can put all the info we need. I'll tape tabs so I don't forget who's who and what's where. This may seem stupid to you, but it's easy enough just to swap a cup around and then be like, shit, which one was which or whatever. It'd be probably even better to put the labels on the cup themselves, especially if you're going to move things around. But at this point, those are sitting where they're going to be until I finish with them, so I'm not that worried about that part. But in any case, let's get these tissue samples made. And I think that'll probably wrap up this video once I'm done with all of that. Let's see, I got my plates. I don't know where I put my razor blade. Oh, okay, it's on the other tray behind me. And I have 2 sterilized blades, perfect. Probably enough ISO to get me through. Alright, here we go. Pretty weird. Kind of cool. It's unusual mutations of cubensis are fun. I think the place to begin would be here. Still very firm and solid fruit. I'll show you as this opens. It's really pretty. Look at that. Beauty. Really nice, huh? Really cool. Alright. We'll just do the same thing. Do a low stipe. That transfer did not, tissue sample did not want to come off the blade. Actually, I'm looking at this blade closely, and I dropped it, I believe, at the end of my last session on the table, and the blade is bent now, so it's got like a little bit of a hook shape to it, which is why that tissue sample was very uncooperative about coming off, I think. So this will be the last sesh for these blades. Some people would recommend you change them every time. Personally, I use them quite a few times before changing them out. Not like a specific number or anything like that. Honestly, you could not change it for like pretty much forever. I mean, you're flame sterilizing the thing. So it's not really like, you know, even if it's an old blade, it's still getting sterilized every time when you use it. So it doesn't really matter, does it? Most of the time, these blades don't need to be like super, super sharp either. Like I said, it's nice for cloning and doing certain things if you have a fresh blade, but it's not really like, it's not necessary per se, just nice. Alright, so make my beginning slit, open this crazy thing up like this. It was like attached by this I don't even know what you would call that. It's like way bigger than a pseudo, like a rhizo. It was attached like that. I guess it's part of the stipe. Awesome. Super cool. Tissue sample from here and from here. Try and do it. Hopefully this is a good angle for everybody. You can see how I'm kind of just pushing the sample around instead of like slicing right through like you would with a fresh scalpel blade. You can cut that thing like right out of there, no problem though. When you have a less, it's just a little more fumbly, I feel like, when you're using less sharp blades. Okay. It's bigger than I would normally take, but since it just popped right off, whatever, I'll just throw this on the Petri. This will start growing mycelium like immediately. A big old chunk like that. Okie dokie. That's E. We're done with our specimens for now. Oh, and I was talking about ending the video. I still have to go look on the microscope. So, okay, we'll get these fruits out of my way. Keep this razor blade so I don't accidentally cut myself later when I'm cleaning these trays off. Let's see here. I'll get my plates wrapped up, get these swabs closed, and we'll grab the scope and just give it a quick peep. That's how we'll finish the video here. Just take a look at the spores to see if there are spores present and if they are mature. I'm kind of guessing they will be. Unlike, at least in my experience so far, for the most part, Shakti, even these weird mutations and stuff, seem to also still want to make spores. So, viable spores as well, not just like. So we'll see. Maybe they'll be there. Just as I'm wrapping these plates, talk about a little musings. I've been thinking about stuff, next projects, next kind of maybe grow along thing to do. And this one with Shakti, this is a heavily inbred mutated genetic, which we're seeing some really cool aspects of. There's good things about interbreeding, and then potentially negative aspects as well down the line, like having deleterious mutations and things like that were a recessive trait getting paired up and being expressed, which would like negatively affect the fruits in some ways, or whatever, negatively affect the fungi. So in any case, this is a cool example of it working kind of good for the moment. Who knows how long it would work good if we kept pushing it down the line. Good is also a subjective thing, like I just did with my air quotes. So every person's opinion about what's good might be a different thing. But anyways, the musings I was alluding to would basically be doing a project where we take something that's pretty inbred, depressed, sort of a genetic. One that would come to mind, for instance, would be some of the stuff in tat. And I'm not talking shit, so don't think of it that way. This is just like kind of the facts of the situation, you know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily negative. It's just like a thing that I see, I've talked to Julian about, and like these heavily inbred lines would benefit from being hybridized with like more with wild genetics to introduce more heterozygosity. So that's kind of what the thought was. I haven't really zeroed in on anything as far as like what to use or anything like that. What genetics in particular. I mentioned TAT, but that's not, doesn't have to be written in stone. So people, Patreon people and Grow Along guys, if you do have an idea to throw my way, obviously I'll keep it in mind. And I do also just need to say that this is like the next project, I guess. I'm always thinking about the next stuff I want to work with. But I did dip my toes into the pool, so to speak, just to take the temperature on people's interest in working with the exotics and doing like an exotic grow along with the Mexicana strain X. So for anyone that was like, you asked and then you didn't do it, I'm still planning to do it. I'm juggling a lot of shit, so gotta manage my own, how do I put this? I'm like a workaholic type of guy, so I tend to bite off like huge chunks, and sometimes that it's not that I can't handle the work, it just can negatively impact other aspects of my life, if you know what I'm saying. So keep yourself in check sometimes, I guess. Saw those plates out of the corner of my eye moving. So I have a ghost in the lab. Spirit lab. I'll bag those up a little bit later. Save you guys the tedium of watching a little bit of this clerical type work. Always make sure you label your shit. I put my little reminders, my letters, so I know exactly what I got going on here later when I come back. If I just had those plates in a pile, like, fucking forget about it, dude. Like, you're not gonna, at least me. I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys have a steel trap memory or something, but old Yoshi does not. I remember a lot of stuff, but I don't know, little shit like that slips out of my head. I can remember all sorts of different things about philosophy and Latin names and all this other crazy shit, but if I walked out of here and came back an hour later, I'd be like, what number was that? Fuck. It's weird how our brains work. Anyway, I'm clearing a little bit of space here to get the scope out, so just bear with me. All right, here we go. Here's a quick bit of footage from the eyepiece of the microscope. I was just checking here for mature spores. You can see they're translucent because they're albino, they lack pigment. That was really all I wanted to see here, is just checking to see if we had mature spores or not.